What's up, guys? Welcome back to Makina Gaming. It's me, your boy Makina, and today we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane. That's right, we're taking it all the way back to 2004, to a much simpler time where a young Makina was wreaking havoc on the PlayStation 2, trying to get his hands on all the trending games, while trying to convince his mother that the games that she was buying for him were not violent at all. That the likes of San Andreas, God of War, and Resident Evil were just pushing the boundaries of artistry and were actually quite beneficial for a creative young man like myself. Those were the days. Walking into a GameStop, seeing lines of people waiting to check out, picking out a game, holding the case in your hand for the very first time, and just being overly excited to get home and play it right away. Now, with that being said, Metal Gear Solid 3 was not a game that I actually ended up playing, but luckily, Konami decided to remaster the game and release it in a more modern state. I know that this is a game that's near and dear to a whole generation of gamers, so I might ruffle a few feathers with this one, so get ready. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and now I bring to you guys my thoughts and review on Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. Check it out. Well, guys, I really don't even know where to begin with this one. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 has to be one of the most hilarious games I've played in recent memory. Going into this game, I was expecting a badass espionage game with cool in-game mechanics, a crazy good story, and some great gameplay. I would have admitted that this game delivered on all fronts if it were 2004. This game is one of the most outdated, cheesiest, far-fetched stories that I've played in a while, and the crazy part about it is that that's what made it fun for me. Allow me to explain. First of all, let's start with your main character, John, aka Snake. He's one of the most dense characters I've ever played as in game. They try to portray him as some sort of badass super soldier in the game, but the way his lines are delivered, the way the story progresses, the way he continuously gets his ass handed to him throughout the game make him come across as more of an overglorified combat expert with no real experience in the world of espionage or war. The game starts you off by sending you into the heart of a jungle located in the Soviet Union, where your mission is to find and rescue weapons developer Sokolov. Your goal is to bring him back to America so that Colonel Volgin, one of the game's main antagonists, can't get his hands on the Shagohod. The Shagohod is basically a portable nuclear tank that would allow him to shoot nuclear warheads at different targets with more efficiency and speed. Volgin's motives early on are to overthrow the current Russian regime, but there's a bit more to it than that. For the sake of not ruining the story, I'm just going to leave it there. Along with Colonel Volgin, you have his cast of flunkies, which you know nothing about, who you will face individually at different parts of the game. Their motives? I have no idea. How they got their superhuman-like abilities? No clue. How did they meet up with Colonel Volgin? Your guess is as good as mine, but they are there to vary things up a bit and to propel the story forward. More on them later. You also have several other characters like the boss, who's Snake's mentor, who in the beginning of the game defects to the GRU, Eva, a mole planted by the KGB in Volgin's group, and Ocelot, who is another member of Colonel Volgin's group and really annoying, but in a hilarious kind of way.
Ocelots are proud creatures. They prefer to hunt alone. Shots. This time I've got 12 shots.
I have to applaud Konami for trying to give us interesting characters to get invested in throughout the story, but the problem was that the dialogue and the writing were super generic and some of the in-game sequences were all pretty lackluster. The voice acting was okay, but their delivery of the dialogue was subpar at best. It's not what you say, but how you say it, you know what I mean? The interactions between characters in this game, for me, were just downright hilarious at times. Now, I will admit that even with the cheesy writing, the game does somehow deliver on an okay narrative, specifically in the later half of the game, where the story really begins to ramp up. I genuinely enjoyed some of the twists and turns that the game threw at me while I was playing. I just wish that the characters had a bit more chemistry between them, you know what I mean? There were some moments in the game where reactions to certain occurrences didn't seem genuine to me, and that really sucks because I get what they were going for. In fact, I actually appreciated the effort they put into making it feel like a story-driven game, but what the story lacked was proper execution. It had a great foundation, don't get me wrong, with cool themes and some drama here and there, but ultimately it just fell short of the mark in certain areas. To get you to understand what it is that I'm saying a bit better, let's do an experiment, shall we? Close your eyes and think back to an action movie that's near and dear to you. Now take that same action movie and add cheesy dialogue and poor acting. That pretty much sums this game's story up to me. Now the story does try to deliver a serious narrative, and you can tell that a lot of time and effort did go into the writing. They even added some cutscenes with some vintage video footage that were meant to give you some backstory and real clarity on exactly what was going on. I do wish, however, they would have made these just a bit more concise. They throw a lot of information at you during these cutscenes, and while the visuals were cool, having to listen to a long-winded cutscene and then immediately having to listen to a long-winded mission debriefing afterwards makes the story a bit harder to track.
1 week, and if it is not too much to ask, do something about Vulcan as well.
What is that supposed to mean?
Nothing means nothing. Call it a modest gentleman's agreement to ensure our continued relationship.
Copy. You're already in enemy territory, and somebody might be listening in. From here on out, we'll be using code names to refer to each other. Your code name for this mission will be Naked Snake. I'll be referring to you as Snake from now on. You're not to mention your real name.
Snake?
What, you don't like snakes?
What do you mean?
You've eaten one before, haven't you?
In survival training?
I'm glad to hear that.
I don't know if I'd ever order one in a restaurant, but...
Be careful, you might not have a choice.
What about you, Major? What should I call you?
Let's see. I'll be Tom. Call me Major Tom. This will be a sneaking mission. You must not be seen by the enemy. You must leave no trace of your presence. Is that clear? This kind of infiltration is the Fox unit's specialty.
As for the gameplay in Metal Gear, I have to be honest guys, I didn't really like it. It felt outdated and the controls felt off to me. And that's with me playing it with more modern versions of the controls, not the legacy version. For starters, the gameplay is heavily centered around stealth, which I personally didn't mind, but it just felt really limited. There were no stealth skills to enhance, only a few variations of silent takedowns, and besides the silencer and maybe one other item that you get later on in the game, there were no other ways to really take advantage of what the game was encouraging you to do. Get in and get out quietly. I wouldn't have minded this as much if the actual gameplay was fun, but unfortunately it just wasn't. The physics in the game were pretty comical, and the cover system was broken, and the hand-to-hand combat was atrocious to say the least. There were no upgrades to your weapons, and ultimately no real strategy to the gameplay. I will applaud them for their effort though, because at least there was an attempt to enhance the gameplay, but just like in the story, the gameplay to me lacked proper execution. At least the game did give you plenty of weapons and items to sift through. I actually thought the game was at its best when I went into certain sections guns blazing. The weapons that you actually got to use in the game felt pretty decent. You also had a good amount of different explosives to use, although I never felt that I was ever in a position where I needed to use them. The same can be said about the items that the game gives you. Besides the motion detector and my compass, I never really used any of the other items that the game gave me. The game never really put me in situations where I really needed them, except for the mine detector, which I only use in one part of the game. But still, at least it does offer some variety. It's a real shame though, because some of the items that the game gives you were really cool, but again, the game doesn't really give you any real use for them other than maybe personal preference. I would have loved it if the game had segments dedicated to highlighting the use of some of these items. Instead, the game just kind of gives you these different items for you to use, which again does offer some variety, but unless you specifically have them equipped, you almost forget that they're even there. To help with this, I think that this game could have seriously benefited from having more enemy types. Different enemies could have given you more of a reason to use some of these different items that the game gives you, but for the majority of the game, you're stuck facing pretty much the same enemies with little to no variation. There's no real distinction in how they attack or how they approach you. There were no sentries to let enemies know where you were or if you were nearby, or enemy detection devices, and really, nothing that the enemy did changed my approach to the game. The enemy AI is also nothing to rave home about. They're pretty dumb to say the least, and once you're detected, they will attack you just with no real strategy. They just kind of spawn to their own deaths, and once you kill enough of them, you'll have this caution period where all you have to do is hide for 99 seconds, and then everything goes back to normal. Hell, there was even a section in the game where I literally massacred every soldier in this building, and all I had to do was put on a white trench coat and some glasses, and the enemy pretty much stopped their whole entire search. And yes, I know that this outfit was supposed to make me look like the other scientists, but I literally just finished killing all these enemy soldiers. You would think that the enemy AI would at least be on high alert.
Somebody.
What?
Oh my god.
Now, the game did have some pretty cool in-game systems that I actually thought were pretty innovative. One of the things that you had to pay attention to was your stamina, for example. In this game, everything you do costs stamina, whether that's walking, crouching, swimming, or fighting. It's up to you to make sure that Snake's stamina stays up. The way that the game makes you do this is by forcing you to survive off the land, so to speak. Every now and again, you'll find different food scattered through the world, but the majority of the time during my playthrough, I had to hunt and eat what I killed to replenish my stamina. The hunting wasn't anything spectacular though, so don't get your hopes up. If you found something you needed to eat, you would either stab it, shoot it, or sometimes trap it. After that, you had the option to consume it right then and there, or you could just keep it in your inventory. But be careful though, because food that's kept in your inventory for too long goes bad. For your health, you had the option to heal Snake through more natural means. Throughout the world, you'd find different resources that you can then access in your cure menu. These resources were then used depending on the type of injury you've sustained. For a bone fracture, for example, you'd have a splint, whereas for a bullet wound, you'd have to use a knife to get the lodged bullet out. If you were bleeding out, applying a band-aid and some disinfectant would help solve the issue. This system was pretty cool to use, and I found myself using it quite frequently. I wish they would have implemented it a bit different though. See, anytime I needed to access this system, I'd have to pause the game. Instead, I feel like it should have been made more accessible in real time during gunfights or even stealthier approaches to enemies. This could have added more tension to any high pressure situations in the game and could have made the gameplay feel a little bit more fluid. I feel the same about the different weapons and items that the game does give you. Something like a weapons wheel and an items wheel could have gone a long way in this game and could have made things more accessible in different situations. But nevertheless, at least they did incorporate something that I felt was innovative and different. Now, you guys might crucify me in the comments for saying this, but I'm also going to mention the fact that the game didn't really do enough to really immerse me in the world. No matter where you were in the game, it just felt, I don't know, pretty quiet. There was nothing really memorable about the soundtrack, and other than a couple of moments here and there, I didn't feel the added pressure or the added weight of having to stop a nuclear threat. To me, it felt like I was just going through the motions. There were no weather changes or weather patterns, a ton of loading screens, no computers to hack or gain access to. Infiltration felt pretty generic, and other than the couple of mini boss fights that you engage in, nothing that really propelled the game forward. As I mentioned earlier, at individual points in the game, you'll face Colonel Vulcan's different squad members, but they were incredibly easy to beat and added nothing to the gameplay other than another enemy to beat. These fights were designed to add another layer to the gameplay, but once again, lacked execution. You needed absolutely no strategy to beat them. Most of them were just run and shoot, except for one, which was the worst one of all. There were some boss fights that I did enjoy, but most of them, especially the earlier ones, just flat out sucked. So here we go. Guys, I really tried to like this game a lot more than I did. I was really trying to relive that magic that some of you felt when playing this game for the first time. But the truth is, I wasn't able to. And that sucks because I really wanted to. Part of me thinks it's because I'm older now and because gaming has grown leaps and bounds since this game's inception, but it also has to do with the game itself. A 10-year-old me would have probably shit his pants with excitement with a game like this, but adult me just doesn't see it. The narrative was decent, but the dialogue and the acting were not, and the gameplay, which was the pillar that I expected this game to stand on, was average at best. The gunplay was okay, but the enemies sucked, and some of the items that the game gives you were cool, but you had no need for it. The controls felt dated, and the hand-to-hand combat was just terrible. The physics in certain situations reminded you that this game is indeed a game that was created for the PS2, and the acting is hilarious in some sections. Still, I gotta tell you guys, there is some fun to be had, and I do give credit to Konami for implementing some cool systems that also influenced some other games today. Either way, I have to judge it based on my time with it and my personal experience. So for those reasons, Metal Gear Solid gets a 5 out of 10. I think it's an average game that really isn't worth a $70 price tag. I'd put this one somewhere in the $30 to maybe $40 range, but there are some hardcore fans out there that might think otherwise. I say pick this game up when it's on sale because Metal Gear Solid at the end of the day is still one of the cornerstone franchises in the gaming industry, and if nothing else, you get to say you played one of the most influential games of all time. Just remember, this game is at its peak when you don't take it too seriously. There you have it, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching the review. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button for me. These videos do take a lot of time and are a lot of work. So if you like the content, don't forget to support the channel. Let's keep growing this thing together. Thank you so much. And as always, be on the lookout for another video from your boy, Makina. Peace.